Welcome to Law Talk on News Talk 1230 and 1450 WENY. Email your questions to lawyer@betsjatomer.com. Now, here's your host, Susan Betz-Jatomer.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Law Talk. Today we're going to be talking about man's best friend and occasionally woman's best friend. We're going to be talking about dogs. Dogs are family. Dogs are companions. Dogs can be therapy, support, and service animals. Dogs can assist the disabled. And we love our dogs and never want to lose them, generally speaking. However, there can be situations and circumstances, and I have a guest here today. His name is Rich, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But we can have circumstances in our lives, whether we are hospitalized or go into rehabilitation or incarcerated or just really ill. We have an emergency with family and have to leave town or whatever reason. Things can happen where we can't take care of our animal, and it can happen suddenly. And when Rich told me his story, I thought, wow, that can't be right. And I'm going to, I jumped in and said, let me try to help you get Max back. Dog's name is Max. So if any of you know, part of what I want to say today is if any of you know who adopted Max, because the end of the story is Max was adopted out. Rich would really like to have Max back. And so if we could prevail upon the new owner to be nice enough to give Max back, we would just love that. But Rich, I'm going to turn it over to you. Hello, Rich. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan.
So tell us, please, a little bit about the steps and what happened, and bear in mind that we're on the air, be concise. What happened that you wound up losing Max?
It was just a series of unfortunate events. A lot of it came down to my own self-control. I was just crossing a crosswalk in town.
Move on.
And a few people are not aware of the crosswalk law, which I'm not an expert on it, but you have to stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk. It boils down.
So anyway, you had an interaction, and you wound up not being able to take care of Max.
Correct.
Okay, so please move to the point where Max is in your apartment, right?
He's all alone in the apartment.
And then what happened?
I can't get to him, and the authorities have gone over to get him at that point. I'm really out of the story at that point. So
How many days had Max been alone in the apartment before they went to get him?
It was the same day, I'm assuming.
The same day, okay.
Yeah.
So the dog warden or someone goes with the assistance of the police or someone?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
And they get Max, and where does Max go from there?
I found all of this out after the fact, but he ended up in the care of a local adoption agency, pet adoption agency, and
then, so he went to the dog warden first, right? For a little bit of time, I understood. And then he went to the care of a local adoption agency who did not have his medical records, correct? They didn't have any of his medical records.
Correct.
And so they wound up, my understanding is assuming that he had not had medical care, but he did, right?
He was well taken care of since my wife and I got him in 2006.
And so you had gotten him medical care as recently as early January, and you had his teeth checked out, and he had his rabies shot and everything else, right?
Correct.
But they didn't know that.
They had no idea knowing that.
Okay, so they went ahead and they got him some medical care that they didn't know he already had, and then they adopted him out, right?
Yeah, I'm limited to what I can say about that whole ordeal,
right,
so that's why there's a lot of dead air. It's not your radios, folks. So I'm just limited to what I can actually say. But it was an unfortunate situation where I had to rely on others, and some people that are close to me but live in a different time zone had to step in and try to rescue my service animal because he's prescribed to meet certain medical conditions that I suffer from, and I ended up where somebody else had to step in. But even though these people knew where I was, they failed to reach out to me to ask, what do you want us to do with your dog?
Right. So what happened was, my understanding is that a family member of yours contacted them and gave them permission to hold on to Max for fostering purposes, or at least so they thought, and not for adoption purposes, correct?
Correct, because we had long taken our dogs to Happy Tails in East Corning, a wonderful facility, and
they had nothing to do with this.
They had no.
Just because we're mentioning a name, I don't want anybody to think they had anything.
No, this is very, very positive on
right.
behalf of them.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, where we were going was that somebody in your family gave permission to this other local animal adoption organization to find a foster home for the animal, and instead the dog Max wound up being adopted out.
I remember now. My wife, she reached out to these folks, and they offered her X amount of dollars a day to house Max. And when my wife called the other agency back and informed them of that, they offered a lower price by $5 a day to hold on to him until we found out what was going to happen with me.
So in other words, both of these agencies were willing to board Max essentially, and so your wife thought that she was agreeing to board Max for what, $5 a day?
No, that was the difference in price.
Oh, the difference in price.
Yeah,
so $5 a day.
It was
less.
about $25 a day or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, so she made an agreement that we're going to board Max there until we figure out what happens with Rich. Okay, and then at some point you discover Max is not being boarded anymore. He's been adopted out.
Yeah, I was really out of the loop as far as any current information. I had to have help from somebody else to get me their old P.O. box at the other agency. And I reached out to them as soon as I found out what was going on, which was 3 weeks after the initial removal, shall we say.
Right.
And I heard nothing back, nothing at all. But
So you were out of commission for about, what, 59 days, something like that?
yeah, correct.
Okay, so then if I can fast forward a little bit.
Please do.
We had, Rich goes to my church, and he told me what happens, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is terrible, because Max was a prescribed therapy dog, which, as it turns out under the law, is different from a service animal, or the therapy dog under the law has a really specific definition which didn't fit here. So I was really surprised to find out, and the bottom line of this show, and I want people to be aware, is that, if you leave your couch in an apartment, as long as your rent is paid, you've got at least 30 days before anything happens. If you leave your pet in an apartment, as Rich has said, it can be a very swift removal of that pet. And you can lose control over what happens to that pet really quickly, and then ultimately lose complete control over it in the transition from, I think we're fostering, I think we're doing one thing, and then it turns out they find a home for your dog, and your dog is no more. So what
is this something that they ask when you're hurt or in an accident like that? Do they ask if you have pets at the home, or how is it within 24 hours?
Well, what happened is this, we don't want to talk about exactly what happened here, but what happened was Rich was not able to communicate with anyone for a while. So he didn't have anything to say about it, but he reached out to a family member to try to handle this for him, his wife.
I see.
And his wife was out of state and maybe didn't understand what she was giving permission for, or how long the duration of the boarding would be, or that. We're not really clear where the wheels fell off the train from boarding to adoption.
Sure.
But the wheels fell off the train is the point. So we're going to have to take a commercial break about now, and then we'll come back and talk about what I tried to do and what I found out, and how little protection you have with your relationship with your pet.
All right, we'll be right back with Law Talk on News Talk 1230 and 1450 on the AM dial, 106.9 on the FM dial.
You can be a hero by being prepared for an emergency. First, make a plan. Call a family meeting to plan for things like how to connect with loved ones after an emergency or your escape route.
I am not fast.
Build a kit. When disaster strikes, it's important to have enough supplies to last 3 days. And don't forget the batteries.
Low battery.
Visit ready.gov/kids for more preparedness tips. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
All right, everybody in the car, let's go.
What are we gonna do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Twin Tiers weather.
Today, mostly sunny and warm. The 5-degree guarantee 82. Tonight, partly cloudy with patchy fog, low 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and pleasant, high 80. Thursday, mostly sunny, high 80. And on Friday, remaining mostly sunny, high 82. For my complete first warning forecast, watch WENY News. I'm meteorologist Joe Barris for 1230, 1450 AM and 106.9 FM, WENY.
Do you have law questions? Email now. lawyer@betsjatomer.com. That's lawyer@BETZJITOMIR.com. Now back to Law Talk.
So I'm back on Law Talk, and I was talking to Rich off the air, and he knows where the wheels fell off the train. So I'm just going to ask Rich, explain that briefly, please.
Well, when my wife reached out to this
organization,
they quoted her amount of money that they would board Max after they found out our other place offered the same type of service. And they said, "Oh no, we can do that if you want, if you're willing to pay X amount of dollars." But then they gave her a deadline of something like a week or 5 days to get out here from, it's Wisconsin, I can say it, and which if you have both your legs, you can get out here probably in that fast. But my wife is an amputee, and she couldn't exactly get out here in that amount of time. So it was either my wife pays this agency to hang on to my dog, or they're going to get rid of him, is what they ended up telling her. But they never reached out to me.
And so they wound up adopting Max out. Max has markings of a Bernese Mountain Dog, but is he actually an Australian Shepherd? What is he?
He's a 100% purebred Australian Shepherd. He's neutered. He's 11 years old.
But Australian Shepherds can have a lot of different markings, and if you know what a Bernese Mountain Dog looks like, he's kind of got those markings. So if you know the person who's adopted Max, and the owner the new owner might be willing to give him back to the old owner, that would be great. They could get in touch with me. So we are looking at the definition of service dog under the law, because Rich was prescribed the dog. But service dog means any dog that has been, or I'm reading from the law now, any dog that's been or is being individually trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of a person with a disability. So Max, although he's a very bright dog and knew how to do a lot of things, he wasn't like leading a blind person or picking up something for a quadriplegic. So he didn't fit the definition of service dog. And then person with a disability is defined in subdivision 21 of section 292 of the executive law as someone who has an impairment resulting from an anatomical, physiological, genetic, or neurological condition. So really what I'm saying here is extremely narrow definition for service dog or therapy dog or anything like that. And a therapy dog actually isn't a dog that provides individual therapy to an individual person, as Rich had done here, but is a dog that provides emotional support in hospitals, nursing homes, retirement homes, and settings like that. So a lot of people don't realize that if your doctor prescribes an emotional support dog, it's not protected under law as a service animal or a therapy dog because of the narrow definitions. So any protection that you might have to keep a dog like that doesn't apply to Rich. Okay, so as far as the local animal adoption organization thought, and they were correct under the law, this dog had no more protection than any other pet.
Is that what it's considered as a pet then? If it doesn't fit those other qualifications, it's a pet.
It's just a pet, which is to say that when you have a pet, it's got less protection under the law, and the logic is for the protection of the animal. But if Rich had left a couch in the apartment and his rent was paid, and it was paid, he would have more right to recover that couch than he does a beloved pet that he's very attached to, which is now lost to him. So so even though the dog was licensed and had its rabies shots and everything else, you've only got 10 days from the discovery of the loss or theft of the dog. Now, we're not saying the dog was stolen. We're just saying it was lost to him, but you've only got 10 days to report it. So unlike your couch that might have been taken from your apartment or whatever, you've only got 10 days to report the loss of the service animal under the Ag and Markets Law. It's Ag and Markets Law, Section 7. So he was not in a situation where he could report the loss, and certainly had no idea he had to report it within 10 days to protect his rights to the dog. And so the dog control officer, when the dog control officer was acting pursuant to his or her duties, They're supposed to maintain a complete record of any seizure and subsequent disposition, and that's great. I mean, we're sure that they kept records, and so their records say, as far as I can determine, we gave it to this local animal care agency, which it was okay because it was going to be boarded, and so we're not saying the dog warden did anything wrong. They kept their records, they took the dog in accordance with law, and they turned it over to someone who we thought, or Rich thought, was going to board it. And so the animal adoption organization, was within their rights, is where I was going with this, to leave to give a deadline, because they're not expected to keep dogs forever. And Rich, your situation was a little uncertain then. And did you want to jump in and say something here?
I just wanted to say it was 10 days or just over that until I found out where he actually ended up.
Right. And by then, under the law, it's too late to even, file the report that you might have liked to have filed. So, where we're going with this is not only hopefully appealing to anybody who knows where Max is to help get Max home, but also the law is such that, people, animals are our fur babies. That's what we call them now on the internet. They're fur babies. They're our children. They're our, we love them. And yet there's so little protection in a crisis or emergency situation for us to get our dogs back. And they weren't required to reach out to him where he was. They got a family member, and that was good enough, and the family member said, yeah, please board the dog until we know what's going on with Rich. And so not the family member, we're not hating on the family member either. We're not hating on anybody here. We're just saying the protections are so low under the law that really we should talk to people about getting the law changed so that, perhaps fostering or adoption, someone can reclaim the dog within 3 months or 6 months or some reasonable period of time like that, because people have crises and emergencies in their lives where they can't take care of their pets, but the pets are family. They're not just property. And so as it turns out under the law, they're treated like property with less protection for the owner of that property than for, like I said, a couch, which is kind of sad.
Very sad.
I'm just surprised, as you said, at a time when people are so attached. We've always been attached to pets, don't get me wrong. But, at a time when they call them fur babies and, people have fun with it, that this hasn't been an outcry for other people that went through similar situations or a situation somewhat like it.
Right. And so when the dog is taken by the animal control officer, you've got 5 days to redeem the dog. So that's it. That's all they have to control the dog for. And then they can turn it over to someone else, or they can euthanize the dog, meaning kill the dog. So, your couch would sit there for a month, but your dog can be dead in 5 days. So one of the things I'm being careful about, and I don't want to hate the local animal adoption agency too much, is because they did take the dog from where the dog could have been put to death. And so Max is alive now because they took the dog. So we're grateful for that.
So the time frame is you have 10 days to
report it,
and then after that it's 5 days.
No, it's that's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
So each dog which is not identified, whether or not licensed, shall be held for a period of 5 days from the date seized, during which period the dog may be redeemed by its owner. So they give you 5 days to redeem it from the dog warden, and you've got 10 days to report the loss. So there are some inconsistencies. Frank is looking at me like that doesn't make any sense.
Because you might ask for it back when it's too late.
When it's too late, exactly. So and the law sets a fee of not less than $10 for you to redeem the dog, but they can certainly charge you more than that. So the owner of record of the dog is supposed to be notified personally or by certified mail of this, which didn't happen in
not
this
once.
day. Yeah,
nope.
not once. But if they sent a letter, and we have no idea if they did, to your apartment, that's enough if they sent a letter by certified mail.
Wow.
And because they went there, but we're time for a break again. We gotta go.
We'll be right back with Law Talk on News Talk 1230 and 1450 on the AM dial, 106.9 on the FM dial.
If you're finally ready to get serious about replacing your old car, we are here to help. Simply visit twintierscars.com now to find the car you're looking for and get help with financing. Plus, special online prices. Just log on now. Type in the make and model of the car you're looking for, along with your price range. Choose from economy cars, sport cars, family cars, trucks, SUVs, foreign and domestic. Visit twintierscars.com and start shopping right now.
Guys, like having a place to live, eating food, wearing clothes, sending 639 texts a week on a shiny new phone? There's one thing that can help you get the money to do all of those things. It's called a job. If you're a guy turning 18, there's one important thing you need to do to make sure the job market is wide open for you. Register with the Selective Service System at sss.gov. Failing to register with Selective Service would mean you'd not only be breaking the law, you'd also be unable to apply for federal jobs, many state and municipal jobs, and all kinds of job training programs the government offers. So guys, take a minute and register with the Selective Service. You'll keep your job prospects open. Otherwise, how are you going to get the basketball shoes with full-length responsive cushioning and an outsole cutout for low-profile impact protection? Take that minute, go to sss.gov and register with Selective Service, and keep all your options open. Remember, it's quick, it's easy, it's the law.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix. Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Army Specialist Lance Gieselman was paralyzed when his tank was blown up in Iraq.
I was an only survivor.
Paralyzed Veterans of America is an independent organization dedicated to ensuring our injured veterans get all the benefits they've earned and need. Paralyzed Veterans Senior National Service Officer Anthony Steele.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to serve our veterans.
If you would like to help our veterans, visit pva.org, a public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Do you have law questions? Email now. lawyer@betsjatomer.com. That's lawyer@BETZJITOMIR.com. Now back to Law Talk.
Well, we're going to change our track a little bit because we got a call from someone who just adopted a service animal and wants a better description. So we're going to give a better description. Max is mostly black. Mm-hmm. He's got little brown eyebrows, white around the muzzle, brown on his legs, and on at least two of his feet, I can see the feet are white. His front right paw looks like it's brown. The other one looks like it's white.
That's just the tip of the other paw.
Right,
mostly his forearms are the brown color.
The brown color. So sort of Doberman markings, only longer hair. He's fluffy. So, if this gentleman has Max, we would love it, love it, love it. Please, if you would be willing to give him back to Rich, that would be great.
Or if anybody thinks that fits a description that they know. Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways to tell if it's Max is, just say, hey, Max, and see if he reacts, because that's his name. So thank you so much for your call, and please get back to us if you think you do have Max. That would be awesome to have this show end with a happy reunion.
I was going to say, just mention that his belly is mostly white.
Okay.
It comes to a point on his rib cage. But,
and why don't you talk a little bit, Rich, about what it's been like for you to be without Max?
Well, you know what it's like to go to an amusement park and you get on a roller coaster and you're climbing slowly up and you hear the chain rattling and sound. And eventually you get to the top and, you drop and your stomach comes afterwards. Well, for me, it feels like, because I've been through a lot of trauma that goes way back longer than we have time for today, it just feels like I'm on a roller coaster, ever climbing to the top and not falling over the edge. My wife, she had her leg amputated, and a short while later she went in for other surgery, which she stopped breathing on her own, resulted in her having a trach tube put in. Went back a month later for the successful surgery and closal of the trach tube. And then she left me right after that. But then there's trauma before that. And it's just having Max in my life. I know we're talking about pets as kids. Well, this is really true in my case. He would just know, he would sense when I'm feeling afraid or feeling not so sure, or if I'm getting too upset. Tampa Bay, they're not doing so well. But, he has to come over and comfort me. I know I made a little joke there, but it's really true. He helps. I was hit by a car a few years ago, and my stability isn't so great anymore. I walk with a cane now, but the cane is taking his place as far as he helped me. He stayed right beside me and helped me keep upright. Sometimes I wobble a little bit walking down the street there, but he would be right beside me to keep my balance somewhat. And he's not a very big, tall dog or anything. He's probably 80 pounds, soaking wet. But he's my best friend. Yeah. but he's more than that because he just helps with all this, all these extreme situations I've been through, and every moment without him is just like a nightmare. I'm always like, I can't breathe. It's like having your kid go off to college for the first time. You don't know, they're 500 miles away or whatever.
Except you're never going to see the kid again.
Yeah.
You're told anyway. You're told you're never going to see the kid again.
Yeah.
So.
And they care so much about the animals, which I believe. But where's your compassion for? I was born and raised here in Corning. I went to the school district here, and
let me just jump in and say I've written 2 letters to the Animal Service Organization, and I've sent them proof that the animal was well cared for, and we've pretty much begged them to let us know where the dog is, so I could make an appeal. I mean, we're not going to go break down any doors or anything, but just so I could contact the person who has Max and say, please, would you consider giving Max back? And they've been zero help in that. Like, they absolutely have refused to give us to give me as an attorney, the contact information. I could definitely assure them that I would keep it confidential. I'm not going to go hand over the guy's address. I mean, hopefully the man who called is the man who has Max, but we're not going to hand over an address to anybody and have any harassment situation or anything like that. My office is secure. I just wanted the opportunity to appeal to the person and show the person, look, Max was well taken care of. Whatever you heard, it's not true. And please, consider giving the dog back.
You'll appreciate this, the audacity that not just Susan reaching out, but another lawyer who's involved in the other thing I can't talk about, used to be partners with her. And I had no idea of all this. This is just supernaturally put together.
Coincidentally.
And he reached out to this organization. They ended up hanging up on him. But then they turned around and told people in my family that he hung up on them, which was not true because I was standing right there.
So it's gone south in a lot of ways, and so I guess we're making an appeal that if anybody knows where Max is, please let the person who has him now know that this is a service animal. He's missed dearly, and also when you go to those town hall meetings and talk to your representatives, whether it's on the local level or the state level, see if you can get some more protection in for people who have dogs that are part of their family, their fur babies they love, so that people can redeem their dogs in situations like this, because 5 days till death or 10 days to report ownership, it's not enough in a crisis situation. People should be able to, you can redeem your house for taxes for a year. You can redeem lots of things. Your couch, like I said, if you left it in an apartment and your rent was paid, your landlord would have to leave it alone. But your dog, you can lose in 5 days. 5 days dead, 10 days you're supposed to report it. I mean, it's really kind of outrageous. And again, we're not claiming anyone here violated the law. But for goodness sake, this is really the only family member Rich has. His wife is out of state, and this is his support animal. And it was I'm not saying unlawfully, lawfully adopted out, but Rich would really like to have the dog back. So
I expect more consideration and respect from somebody in my hometown, from
But it didn't happen. I mean, the fact is, it didn't happen. They were like, we didn't violate any laws, and so too bad, so sad. And it is really too bad and so sad. And so we.
And one thing that might be worth, we only have a little bit of time left, but it may be worth going through some contact information if someone's listening, because this number here, you're more than welcome to call in, but after the program, there's not someone manning this phone.
Right. So my telephone number at my office is 607-776-4200. That's 607-776-4200. My email address is lawyer@bettsjatomer.com, lawyer@BETZJITOMIR.com. I am Susan Betts-Jatomer. As I said, Rich goes to my church. We would be happy to get the dog back to him. My office is at 1 Liberty Street in Bath. If you have Max and you want to bring him to my office, I would bring Max to Rich. So we're really hoping that we can get Max back to Rich, to the home where he's lived for many years and been a companion to Rich for many years. And, again, we're not claiming anyone violated the law. We're not saying people are evil. We're not trying to rail on anybody. We're just saying this is a situation where the law did not offer, and I have to tell people this sometimes, the law does not offer a remedy for every wrong. So was it wrong, in my opinion, that Max is no longer living with Rich? Sure. Was it legal? Sure. So we're just appealing to anyone who knows the new owner or to the new owner to please consider giving Max back. And that's it.
Please.
That's Law Talk for today.
And if I just want to add, just because we have 10 seconds here, if anybody wants to contact it, if they feel more comfortable, they can obviously call me on the air tomorrow on the program. I can write down information too if they missed any of those phone numbers or emails. People are used to the number by now, but 936-9369, 936-WENY. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for Law Talk right here at News Talk 1230 and 1450. That's on the AM dial, 106.9 on the FM dial.